Amada was a Rizzless idiot who had never touched a woman because they're all fighting in a war. However, when he finally finds a girl who wants his sausage, invaders from another planet tried to abduct her. So he reveals his angel powers to save her so she can let him pipe that kitty at night. Everything started when Amada met a QV named Mikono, who was crying from the movie she watched. It was about a couple who were deeply in love, and since Amada was a big fan of the movie, Mikono grew interested in him. When she asked him out, he told her to wait while he finished his shift. However, when Mikono told him she'd wait for him, even if it would take eternity, it caused Amada to fall in love with her on the spot. But his feelings for her triggered his angelic abilities, so he was forced to dip to calm things down. Later, he got home and placed restraints on himself to prevent triggering his powers again. But when he saw his mother's old picture, he flashed back to a time when she abandoned him. He snapped back to reality when he recalled that Mikono was waiting for him, so he stormed out and took her on a date. While they were on a boat trip, he noted how dull the city had become thanks to the otherworldly beings called abductors, who had been raiding nonstop. He then told her about the movie, how it was a legend of a battle between mankind and shadow angels which occurred about 12,000 years ago. Mikono admitted she'd heard about the tale, but noticed how Amada's mood shifted when she mentioned an actress in the movie. She had no idea Amada's mom, Alicia, was the lead actress, so she changed the conversation and talked about a school that trained pilots to fight the abductors using high-tech robots called Aquarian. Amada told her there was no way he would be selected, and Mikono felt the same way about herself, excited that they were in the same shoes. However, her excitement got flushed down the toilet when an abductor named Kagora appeared and launched a full-scale attack on the city, mostly taking female hostages. Shocked, Amada scrambled to protect Mikono, but when they were ambushed, an Aquarian appeared to defend them. While the three pilots inside fought off enemy drones, Kagora blindsided them, and as a result, the higher-ups at the academy were forced to send in their female reinforcements, though it was considered taboo to have guys and girls fight together. When the ladies' unit arrived, they helped to calm things down a bit but struggled against Kagora and blamed their failure on the guys' team. As a result, they fell victim to a nasty attack from Kagora. Mikono got caught up in the clash, but before a statue could crush her, Amada threw himself over her to shield her. Strangely, Kagora became drawn to her scent, but he made sure to defeat both Aquarians from the academy before going after her. Seeing this, Amada realized he would lose Mikono if he kept hiding his powers, so he removed his restraints and flew her into the sky. Mid-flight, a vector, which is a part of an Aquarian, flew toward him. At first he panicked, thinking it would crush him, but when he opened his eyes, he was shocked to find himself inside it. However, when Kagora attacked his ship, Amada suddenly felt like he knew what to do to stop him. So he yelled the name Aquarian and triggered a forced merge with two female pilots into a forbidden Aquarian. The Neo-Diva organization manages these Aquarians, and as per their rules, it's forbidden for two pilots of opposite genders to merge in an Aquarian, which is why they are freaking out. A guy named Kane is another pilot on board the Aquarian, and he thinks Amada is a terrorist out to destroy them. As Amada tries to clear his name, Kagora seizes the opportunity to land a surprise attack on their Aquarian. While taking damage, Kane's superiors at the Neo-Diva headquarters try to conceal the Aquarian's link, but they learn that it's impossible. Donor gets irritated when he finds out because a forbidden link like this has been formed in the past, and it didn't end well. Back in the city, Amada gets tired of getting pounded, so he finally grows a pair and uses his powers to shoot a powerful laser beam at Kagora. Though Kagora reacts quickly to dodge, the officers back at headquarters are surprised that Amada can use the Aquarian like that. Kagora attacks again, but this time Amada falls to the ground because he isn't used to the suit's control yet. As a result, Mikono tears up and begs him to chicken out and run, but things get interesting when enemy reinforcements show up and force Kagora back to his home planet. While Kagora is distracted, a pilot named Zestica shows Amada the controls of their Aquarian, so he'll be able to fight better with it. In mere seconds, he perfects a skill and uses it to destroy a pair of drones flying at them, leaving everyone shocked. After Kagora deals with the drones, he charges at Amada to get Mikono. Along the way, Mikono tears up because she can't stand what's going on. And that's when Kane sees a disturbing vision of Mikono getting married to Kagora. While his team is distracted by the vision, Kagora seizes the opportunity to restrain them with cuffs and proceeds to electrocute them. As they yell in pain, Kane blames Amada for everything that's going on, and Amada admits it because he wasn't supposed to show off his powers. Now that he's done it, Mikono is in danger, but when Mikono reminds him that he saved her, his resolve to protect her increases, and his powers along with it. With that, he gets rid of the cuffs and spears Kagora all the way to an asteroid in outer space. After recovering from the crash, Kagora tries to attack Amada's side again, but his superior, Izzumo, gives him the middle finger, and teleports him back to Atlair, their home planet. Later that day, Kane knocks Amada out for putting Mikono in danger, but while he lies asleep, he's grateful he met a girl like that. Meanwhile, Kagora arrives on his home planet and runs his big mouth to a guy named Jin about how he's found a hot chick from Earth to clap. On Altair, Izzumo becomes frustrated when he learns that all the women he took from Earth can't get pregnant. When he confides in Jin to get chicks with bigger plots, he learns that Kagora might be a problem and decides he'll shut him up himself. Back on Earth, Amada wakes up and finds himself at Street Angel Academy, where Kane shows him around and explains everything about the school. Getting to class, everyone sees him as a hotshot because he hijacked an Aquaria and merged with chicks. Curious, Amada asks about Mikono, so Kane tells him about the wall that separates guys from girls and explains that it's forbidden to mingle with them. After that, he questions Amada about his relationship with Mikono, and Amada tells him they're just friends. This pisses Kane off because friends don't cuddle up in a cockpit, and his reaction gives Amada the impression that he's Mikono's boyfriend. The thought makes Amada mourn his one-way ticket to getting his V-card swiped, but he regains hope when Kane reveals that he's Mikono's brother. Kane also mentions that Mikono is the only one in her family who isn't gifted, and that she was always scared of abductors. He calls her a coward for being like that, and though Amada admits he just met her, he argues that Mikono is different from what Kane described. Kane loses his cool after hearing this, but Donar shows up and stops him from giving Amada a proper beatdown. He then tells Amada to prepare for an aptitude test, which will determine if he'll become a pilot or not. That afternoon, during the test, the officers realize his gifts let him fly, but they don't detect any power fluctuation even under extreme conditions. Then they put him in front of an OnLifeN's model, and suddenly his rocket launches him straight into outer space. The Academy's headmaster takes an interest in his abilities, thinking they might be the key to fixing his own bedroom rocket malfunctions. But Donar steps in and argues against exploiting him. After that, the headmaster subjects Amada to a brain scan to see if there are traces of the Aquaria in his mind, but the scan fails, and it's reported that someone interfered with his memories. That evening, Amada lies in bed and starts thinking about Mikono, but he gets distracted when he hears piano music. While trying to trace the source, he stumbles and falls into a pit, where he finds a dude named Andy on the other side. Turns out Andy is digging a tunnel that leads to the girl's side of the wall so he can get cultured with chicks. Amada likes the idea and joins him since he wants to see Mikono, but when he reaches the other side, he's blessed with an unplotted view of everything under Mikono's skirt. As a result, he freaks out and accidentally flies her into the sky, while she yells, trying to avoid her pickle from getting tickled. After Amada crashes to the ground, Mikono calls him a degenerate loser and runs off, thinking he only wants to clap her. A few days later, Amada is selected to participate in a monthly training simulation with other pilots, and he's appointed head of the team. At the start of the simulation, his mood shifts when he thinks about how things ended with Mikono, but he gets fired up when he learns that all the girls are watching him. With that, he merges with teammates and powers up, giving everyone the impression that he's about to clap all enemy drones, but they're shocked when he wastes a move to apologize to Mikono instead. After the training is called off, Donar and the other instructors wish for a chance to give Amada a well-deserved beatdown, while Mikono smiles because she knows Amada pulled that stunt for her. The following day, Mikono prepares to say goodbye to Amada because she isn't gifted or cut out to be a pilot. On the way, Jessica gets nosy and asks if she's forgiven Amada, but Mikono tells her it's none of her business and even ignores a farewell handshake from her. Later that morning, Andy loses his mind when he sees that his tunnel has been sealed, but he thinks a girl was behind it and assumes she wants him to appreciate her plots instead. While Amada wonders if Andy's brain is on Do Not Disturb, he hears a song from a piano, so Andy tells him Shrade is behind it. He mentions that Shrade is a hot jigga-chad who's the #1 student in the school, and that all the girls struggle over who gets to goon to his pictures. Curious, Amada heads to meet Shrade to see what he's about, and he's surprised that Shrade has noticed him already. Soon after, Kane enters the room ready to give Amada a beating for the nonsense he pulled during yesterday's training. But as he gets into it, Shrade plays a piece that messes with Kane's mind. While he screams in pain, Kane sees a vision of his sister dying after getting married to Kagora, but it fades away after Shrade stops playing the piano. Turns out his gift allows him to alter people's minds with music, and though he used it to prevent Amada from getting beaten up, Kane isn't pleased with it. He attacks Shrade to get back at him, but the battle ends when the emergency alarm goes off, everyone except Shrade speeds off to mount a vector, which they'll use to fight abductors in the city. This time, Kane leads the team, and he easily defeats the first wave of abductors that attack. Mikono, who watches everything from a distance, starts to get a bad feeling about the operation when she realizes that Amada is there too. Before long, an abductor lands a surprise attack on Kane's team, and reinforcements completely surround them. While trying to escape, Kane's team takes a nasty hit, and everyone watching at headquarters begins to realize that someone else might be controlling the enemy drones. The headmaster is put under intense pressure to send Shrade as the trump card, but opposing forces remind him that Shrade isn't fit for combat. Meanwhile, Shrade watches the battle and decides to awaken Kane's powers with a note. As a result, Kane realizes that Jin is behind the attack, so he directs a swarm of missiles to his position. However, Jin evades the missiles and counters with a remote electrifying attack that leaves Kane's team yelling in pain. Out at sea, an unidentified person abducts Mikono and takes her to the Neo-Diva headquarters, insisting that she be put on the same team with Amada. Seeing the shocked look on everyone's faces, he takes off his disguise and reveals himself as Zen Fudo, the supreme commander of their organization. He then talks some sense into Mikono and tries to convince her to join Amada and Kane, who have previously fought to save her life. Thinking it through, she agrees and merges with Amada and Kane. But this time, Amada leads the team. He annihilates a wave of abductors in a single strike, but as Jin starts firing back, Kane gets worried and wonders why Mikono came back since she's fated to die if she keeps getting involved with Amada. Frustrated, he admits that he's always wanted to protect her, but he calms down when she tells him she'd like to protect him. Amada gets fired up after seeing her, but before he can fumble a quick nut, he channels all that cursed energy into Aquaria's fist and punches Jin into orbit. However, the fist circles back to Earth and shatters the wall in the academy that separates guys from girls. All the guys rejoice after seeing this, so they dash toward the ladies to clap, only for Zen to show up and forbid them from spreading the Alabama 19 virus. Meanwhile, on Altair, Amada's rocket punch breaks the seal on a guy named Mikage, leaving Kurage shocked when he finds out. Back on Earth, Kriya, the director of the Neo-Diva organization, arrives at the academy and enters a meeting with top officers concerning her research on forbidden Aquarias. During the meeting, Kriya reveals that Aquarias go out of control when their pilots' affection for each other runs too deep. Though her organization rejected the use of such Aquarias, she admits they'll have to depend on it since the abductors are getting stronger. On Altair, Jin joins Izzumo to analyze the previous battle with Amada, and they notice that his Aquaria's energy output increased when Amada led his team. Izzumo checks the data and is stunned when he notices traces of a female's energy signature. But he's caught off guard when Kagora leaves the planet via the interdimensional gate, because it means Mikage has awakened. Back on Earth, Andy almost takes a piss when he sees that he'll now be taking classes with hot chicks. Sumi, the homeroom teacher, gets everyone's attention when she reveals they'll be going on a field trip, and Amada's face turns red at the thought of being on a date with Mikono. On the trip, everyone except Amada is handed armbands, and Andy gets electrocuted when he gets too excited after spotting nuclear milkers. A chick named Sazanka gets paired with Shrade and Kane, and while thinking she might get cultured by two gigachads, she ends up climaxing over their sus bromance and gets electrocuted on the spot. Later, when all the groups are sent out on romantic dates, Kriya notices most of them are getting zapped, and Sumi, who acts like she never gets piped, complains about the exercise. Kriya tells her it's necessary because they need to avoid the dangers of pilots being in love, to prevent what happened to Donor from repeating itself. Back then, Donor had a girl he loved, but their link malfunctioned mid-battle against abductors, and he lost her. The damaged link caused part of his body to be replaced, and now he's stuck being a joyless instructor who can't go into OnlyFans models anymore. Presently, Kriya wants a situation where pilots in love can fight right when they're about to reach their love threshold, so their forbidden Aquaria can unleash tremendous power. She explains that the armbands exist to prevent pilots from getting cultured, and Donar is on board because he wants to prevent what happened to him from happening to Amada. Now he watches from a rooftop and shoots Amada in the back whenever he gets too excited around Mikono. Later that afternoon, Sazanka sits on a date with Shrade and Kane and grows uncomfortable when they're served a drink in one glass. Shrade and Kane are forced to drink with a straw from the glass, and Sazanka times out after witnessing the beautiful sight. As the date progresses, the headmaster monitors Shrade's vitals and notes that he's stable, though Sumi reminds him that Shrade shouldn't be put in battle because of his terminal illness. In the city, Amada gets shot again because he was getting too excited around Mikono. While Mikono blushes, thinking he's crazy about her, Jessica gets jealous and sinks Amada's hands into her giant milkers. Before Amada's rocket launches him into orbit, Mikono gets jealous, so the next time Jessica pulls that stunt, Mikono gets pissed and walks away. Amada follows her and tries to explain, so he joins her on a rooftop, where she admits that she never wants to forget him, as the culture within them starts growing out of control. The officers watching at base fear the donor incident might happen again, but to their shock, Kagora pulls up, gives Amada the middle finger, and claims Mikono for himself. When he tastes her and realizes she's sweet, Mikono climaxes out of control and passes out on the spot. When Kane notices Mikono is in trouble, he charges in to save her, but he's ordered to return to the academy instead. Pissed, he heads off while Shrade stays behind to handle things. At the rooftop where Mikono is held, Amada tries to get her back, but he finds out the hard way that he should have learned to fight. He ends up begging to be spared, but after realizing what he'll lose if Kagora takes Mikono, he charges at him and jumps off the roof with her. Kagora tries to follow, but before he can jump, Shrade stops him with his powers. On Altair, Izzumo questions Mikage about why he helped Kagora, but Mikage admits he did nothing except see Kagora off to Earth. He mentions Mikono, whom Kagora is after, and teases that she might be the future of their dying planet. Afterward, Izzumo returns to a chamber to visit his sleeping bride, Alicia, wishing she could wake up. Meanwhile, on Earth, Kagora grows tired of listening to Shrade's piece, so he jumps off the roof instead. While the pilots are transported back to base, Sazanka gets curious and asks why Shrade is always exempted from real battles. Donor answers by giving a brief history lesson on Shrade's past, explaining how he was talented with music since birth. One day, while he played a piece, he unknowingly influenced his parents to unalive themselves. Since then, he became a tool for silent death until Kriya found him and recruited him into her organization. During testing, they discovered that using an Aquaria would shorten his life because his body couldn't handle the strain of his powers. Meanwhile, Amada carries a sleepy Mikono to safety and notices when she mutters that she needs to apologize to Kagora, as he wonders what she means. The emergency alarm goes off in the city, signaling the presence of abductors. Kagora gets pissed when he notices vectors flying in, so he suits up to check if Mikono is in any of them. While he's at it, Mikono regains consciousness, and Amada asks why she feels the need to apologize to Kagora. The trifling tells him it's because she was scared when Kagora grabbed her, and she had a nostalgic feeling when he tasted her. Meanwhile, Kagora pinpoints Mikono's position, while Kane struggles to recover after crashing his vector into a building. Seeing his condition, Shrade offers to switch places with him, and insists on it when Kane reminds him he could die. Everyone is shocked when Shrade attacks Kagora with a vector, and as he joins the team, Zen orders Andy to switch places with Amada. When Shrade requests permission to merge with Jessica and Amada, Kriya hesitates because she knows the risks, but she agrees after Zen gives her the look. After a successful merge, Shrade harnesses the power from his team and lands multiple nasty attacks on Kagora. Mere seconds into the fight, Kagora is put on the defensive, while Shrade hyperventilates from the strain on his body. As Kagora recovers to fight back, Jin restrains him and sends him back to Altair so he doesn't damage the suit. As for Shrade, Amada realizes a bit too late that he's already passed out. The next morning, Kriya visits Shrade in the hospital to see how he's doing, but she finds that he's more concerned about getting back into an Aquaria. He claims he enjoyed his last experience and doesn't care if it costs him his life, because living like this already feels like death. Hearing this, Kriya authorizes his discharge from the hospital and leaves after warning him to reconsider his actions. In class, Andy crashes out before his mates because it doesn't feel like the guys have truly mixed with the girls. He suggests the seat rearrangement, and though Mix is against it, everyone else supports it and it stands. But Andy almost sheds tears when he realizes Mix is his seatmate, because although her milkers are huge, her legs will remain closed for eternity. Coincidentally, Amada sits between Mikono and Zestica, and he begins to float when he's blessed with a marvelous view of Zestica's plots. Mikono grows jealous because of this, while Sazanka climaxes out of control at the very thought of sitting with Shrade and Kane. As time goes on, Andy gets frustrated because all the guys except him are getting friendly with their female seatmates. He then comes up with a fake story about a missing girl and her doll to scare the girls, and some people actually buy into it. That evening, while Amada stays back to clean the classroom, Jessica finds it hard to go to her dorm because she's scared. She confides in Amada and begs him to walk her there, and he agrees. On the way, they're shocked to find the stuffed doll Andy talked about, and they end up running for their lives to avoid getting hexed. As they storm out, yelling from the building, Mikono sees them and assumes Amada is taking Jessica to Pound Town. The following day, while Amada talks about what happened last night, Mikono says Jessica was screaming his name, which makes everyone in class think they got cultured. But before Amada can explain, the emergency alarm goes off again, and he's sent out to fight along with Jessica and Kane. This time, Jin is behind the abductor attack, and he easily sets Jessica's team on the defensive by reflecting laser beams precisely at their position. As Jessica's side takes more damage, they're forced to sever their link and fly off in their individual vector machines. As their morale crashes, Zen, who's watching, remains optimistic because he has a trump card to handle the situation. He orders a girl named Yuno to switch places with Jessica, and that's how everyone realizes Yuno is the one behind the stuffed doll. She apologizes to Amada for scaring him earlier and then begs him to merge with her. He agrees, and once they merge, Yuno temporarily uses her powers to make their Aquaria invisible, allowing them to dodge a missile from Jin. Shocked, Jin shoots multiple missiles again and rejoices a bit too early, thinking he's won the fight. However, he finds out the hard way when he's punched multiple times into the atmosphere, where his suit explodes. Turns out his suit was remotely controlled, and though he lost, he's grateful to have obtained new fighting data from Amada's team. Later on, Mikono meets Amada and apologizes for what she did earlier, but Amada brushes it off as no big deal. About a week later, Andy has a field day creating a tunnel that's supposed to lead to the girls' locker room, only to end up in an abandoned building instead. The following day, Sazanka starts selling pictures from their recent field trip, and Amada ends up buying Andy's picture. While the girls try to process whether he's straight or bent, Andy storms in and makes it worse by calling Amada his hole-digging brother. Later that night, Amada lies in bed and flashes back to when Mikono wanted to apologize to Kagora. He still wonders what she meant by that, but brushes it off with a night's sleep. On Altair, Izzumo tells Jin that he needs to attack Earth again so they can clap the hottest chicks and have kids. He complains that the women he abducted before didn't survive the interdimensional travel and goes on to reveal the planet's biggest problem. First, no one could birth females anymore, and then things got worse when all the women died from a strange illness. Now only men exist, and Izzumo hopes to save his species by finding the best chick on Earth to birth Altair's next generation. Hearing this, Jin agrees to go to Earth in person, so he upgrades his suit using all the battle data he obtained from his last fight. Back on Earth, Mix crashes out on Jessica for always showing too much skin. Jessica turns to Amada to ask if that's true, only for the degenerate to lose control when he sees her plots. Mikono sees everything and gets jealous, so at night, she pulls out a little dress, desperate to see if Amada will like her in it. She turns red when Jessica shows up, but before she can try it on, the emergency alarm goes off, and she's sent out with Jessica and Amada to face Jin. This time, Amada leads the team and dashes in to land a nasty punch on Jin, thinking it'll be enough to defeat him. To his shock, Jin blocks. Meanwhile, Kagora, who is trapped on Altair, yells in pain, begging Jin not to lay hands on Mikono. Back on Earth, Jin fires a missile at Amada's team, and though it doesn't damage their Aquaria, it shakes them personally. Their link is severed, forcing all three pilots to dodge more missiles on their own. A set of missiles speeds towards Jessica, but before she can get nuked, she reacts instinctively and dodges them, leaving her stunned. Jessica realizes she dodged because most of her skin is exposed, so she tells her teammates to show more skin if they want a chance in the fight. While they rip their clothes, Zen orders them to merge again, but appoints Jessica as the team's leader. This time, when Jane shoots multiple missiles, Jessica sees them in slow motion and dodges them with ease. She then seizes an opening and unleashes a flurry of punches on Jin, causing his suit to explode. She rejoices with Amada and Mikono after securing the win, but her heart starts pounding when she mistakenly catches a glimpse of Amada's sword. On Altair, Jin's subordinates get pissed because Izzumo is too chill about what happened to Jin, so they decide to take matters into their own hands. Along the way, Mikage shows up and worsens their rage by putting them under his spell. The next day, Andy crashes out when he sees his new hole sealed again, and is now even more convinced a chick is behind it. At the cafeteria, Mikono gets teased about her relationship with Amada, and she turns red, insisting she's not close to him like that. Hearing this, Jessica goes nuts and tells her to leave Amada for her instead, but for some reason, Mikono stays quiet. Curious, Sazanka switches the topic to hole-in-the-wall spots she wants to visit, which makes Mix snap. Mix tells her the only hole she'll ever be spotted in is the nearest manhole, and then storms off to another table, saying she can't stand plotting. That afternoon, while Shrade plays a piece, Kane walks in, worried about the last battle with Jin. He mentions Jin's body hasn't been found yet and asks if Shrade has detected anything, but Shrade says no. Kane then tells him to avoid combat at all costs, which makes Shrade assume Kane is worried about him. That night, Andy goes on another hole-digging mission with Amada, this time aiming for the girls' bathhouse. Before he gets there, Mix uses her powers to seal the tunnel. pushing both degenerates out into the open. Realizing it's been her all along, Andy claims they're meant to be since they have opposite powers, but he fumbles his Rizz when he overemphasizes her bouncy milkers, and she kicks him in the face. Zen watches them fight and decides it'd be a good idea to put them on the same team with Mikono. When the news spreads, Mikono wonders why she was chosen, while Mix breaks down because merging with Andy makes her fear that she might get pregnant. When the time comes, Mix refuses to merge with Mikono and Andy, causing their team to fail the exercise. As punishment, she and Andy are locked up and forced to work through their issues until they sort things out. Along the way, Andy asks why she hates guys and holes so much, and she admits she has daddy issues. Her father fell in love with a woman he met at a hole-in-the-wall hot spring, and ever since, Mix has hated both men and holes. The next day, Jin's underlings show up on Earth, so Andy, Mikono, and Mix are deployed to fight them. On the way, Mix breaks formation, thinking she can take all 3 abductors on her own. But Andy saves her from a direct hit and yells some sense into her, convincing her to merge with the team. Midway through merging, Jin's underlings interrupt, and Andy takes a heavy blow protecting Mix. Zen orders Amada to replace him, but Mix hesitates because she now wants Andy. Thanks to Mikono, she agrees, and her bond with Andy carries over, making Kriya realize Mikono has the gift of enforcing connections between people. After the merge, Mix manipulates the holes in the abductors' suits, causing explosions that wipe them out. Later, Amada compliments Mikono for supporting the team with her powers, making her blush, while Jessica stares in jealousy. As Mikono walks off, she slips, and Amada catches her, going in for a kiss, only for Mikono's pet to ruin it. The following day, Jin shows up at the academy under the pretense of being a transfer student, but he's stunned when he sees that most girls in class are blessed on both sides. While trying to settle in, he quickly gets surrounded by girls, but feels relieved when Kane shows up and offers to show him around. While looking around, he learns about Aquarians and wanders off to take a closer look at them. A few days earlier, Izzumo contacted him and told him to return to Altair with a vector machine, but insisted that he prioritized finding a gifted girl who could save their dying planet. Jin accepted the mission and created a fake profile, which made it easy for the Academy to accept him without suspicion. Presently, he gets overwhelmed when he sees some girls using their powers, so he hides in a corner to process everything. Unfortunately, he finds out the hard way that he's in the girls' locker room, where Jessica and some others surround him, thinking he's the type who likes to peep. But before Jessica can make him strip, Yuno shows up and reveals that Jin didn't peep on purpose. With that, Jin is released, but when he returns to his dorm, he refuses to speak to Andy and Amada. The next day at lunch, he tries eavesdropping on conversations to gather intel, but he freezes when he locks eyes with Yuno. Yuno notices his mood and grows worried about him because he reminds her of her old life. She opens up to Amada, explaining that before now she wasn't the type to socialize. While she talks, Jin eavesdrops and realizes she's the same girl from yesterday. Outside, Kane meets Shrade and opens up about a dream that's been bothering him. He says he keeps seeing a one-eyed giant in his sleep, and Shrade admits he's been sensing something strange ever since Jin arrived at the academy. Meanwhile, Jin reads a book about developing plots in the library and gets freaked out when he bumps into Yuno. Yuno disappears because she's shy, but reappears when Jin speaks kindly to her. He admits he finds her gift convenient since it could help get rid of people, but Yuno disagrees, saying she prefers to use it to connect with others instead. She tears up recalling how lonely she used to be and runs off, leaving Jin shocked. As he walks away, he doesn't realize Kane is watching him. Back in his dorm, he casually reports his findings on the girls he's met so far. Izzumo appreciates the intel, and from what he hears, he confirms the girls at the academy are suitable candidates to save Altair. He then orders Jin to bring him one he detests. That night, Andy somehow convinces Jin to join him on a trip to the girls' dorms, but Jin sneaks off and meets Yuno instead. Yuno becomes shy when she sees him, but Kane suddenly shows up and shoots at Jin when he tries to enter her room. Hearing the shots, Andy and Amada rush over, only to find Kane demanding that Jin reveal his true intentions. Though they try to stop Kane from firing another shot, they fail, and the blast heads straight for Yuno. To everyone's shock, including Jin's, he awakens his abilities and blocks the shot. On Altair, Izzumo leaves his chambers and enters the Kriya room where Alicia has remained asleep for years. As he stands quietly in front of her, his little me time is interrupted when Mikage walks in unannounced. Izzumo immediately scolds him for barging in, but Mikage ignores the warning and reminds him that Alicia is the reason he keeps coming back here. He recalls how Altair lost every woman on the planet and turned its eyes to Earth for salvation. Izzumo was part of the mission that brought girls back from Earth, and Alicia was among the girls. But she left a son on Earth and collapsed into a deep sleep on the journey and never opened her eyes again. While the rest of Altair sees her as useless, Izzumo has forbidden anyone from touching her. Mikage, however, calls her dead weight and even moves to end her life, but Izzumo steps forward and blocks him, insisting that Alicia must not be touched. Mikage pulls back, but his retreat is laced with contempt because, unlike Izzumo, his sights are fixed on a larger prize. He reveals his true intention, which is to awaken an Aquaria called the mechanical angelic Genesis that sleeps on Earth. Later, Mikage visits Kagora, who has been locked away and chained like a wild dog. Kagora thrashes against his chains, desperate to break free, while Mikage slams, telling him that Mikono is for the streets. Every savage roast only feeds Kagora's rage until he finally snaps, and his body twists into beast form. With that, he tears through his cage and storms out, heading for the exit. Alarms echo through the base as he smashes through guards on his way to the hangar, but Mikage simply smiles, satisfied that Kagora's obsession with Mikono has become unstoppable. Meanwhile, on Earth, Jin is arrested for sneaking into the girls' dorm, while Kane is locked up for pointing a gun at a classmate. Jin is released first and crosses paths with Yuno in the hallway, while the higher-ups secretly confirm that Jin is not who he claims. Even so, they choose to look the other way because his power makes him too valuable to lose. Amada and his friends notice Jin's strange behavior, but don't see him as a threat. Jessica steals a sip from Amada's drink, which Andy immediately uses as an excuse to tease him about Mikono. He warns Amada that if he doesn't confess soon, someone else will clap her, but Amada insists that romance is forbidden. Regardless, Andy reminds him that Kagora is still out there, and waiting too long could cost him everything. Without wasting time, Amada takes Mikono to the riverside, asking what she sees for herself once the war is over. Though he sounds casual, deep down, he fears losing her. Back on Altair, Kagora steals a suit and tears through the city in a frenzy. Izzumo orders the interdimensional gates closed, but Kagora's strength is far beyond what the soldiers can handle. Elsewhere, Jessica stares at herself in the mirror and wonders if Amada prefers Mikono because she's flat. Right then, she's struck by a sudden vision of Mikono getting married to Kagora and is left shocked after the vision fades. At the riverside, Amada looks at Mikono, and though he cannot yet tell her how much he wants to clap her, he wants to ask her about her plans after the war is over. Back on Altair, the military unleashes its full arsenal on Kagora, but he rises stronger and destroys everything in his path. As Izzumo realizes he cannot stop him, Mikage secretly opens a way that allows Kagora to escape the planet. The following day, Jin is by himself, trying to eat his sausage, when two girls suddenly approach him, insisting on taking cute pictures with him. He tries to resist but ends up going along with it, and though he looks shy, the girls get exactly what they wanted. Elsewhere, Amada admits to Andy that he still hasn't been able to tell Mikono how he feels. Andy understands his struggle and suggests that he set up a special moment to bring them together. With the Academy's anniversary coming up, Andy hatches a plan to create an event, slipping Amada a letter that he can use as an invitation for Mikono. Later in class, Amada tosses the note over to Mikono. She catches it and reads the invitation, realizing it's for the boys' dorm. Jessica notices and teases Amada until he invites her too, which frustrates Andy because the whole point was to give him alone time with Mikono. That night, Andy begins preparing their room for the event, only for Jin to walk in. Seeing an opportunity, Andy tells him to join, thinking it might help Jin get more comfortable around girls. Not long after, Mikono and Jessica crawl through the secret tunnel toward the dorm, only to notice Yuno following them. She begs to come along, and the three make their way through together. Out in the yard, Kane talks to Shrade about his suspicions about Jin. Before they can finish, the girls climb out of the tunnel and bump straight into them. With no other choice, Shrade and Kane accompany them to Andy's room, where the whole group gathers. Andy tries to reassure the others that nothing inappropriate is happening, only that they want to relax together before the anniversary. Once inside, Jessica immediately snoops under Amada's bed, convinced that boys hide secret photos there. To everyone's surprise, she pulls out a picture of the actress Sylphie, who is revealed to be Alicia, Amada's mother. Jin freezes when he sees it, while the others recognize her from the popular film Skies of Aquaria. Later, Jin secretly tries to contact Altair, but when Yuno accidentally sees him, he panics and starts chasing. However, he mistakenly tears her teddy, and she leaves it behind in tears. Meanwhile, Amada and Mikono set up the projector, and the sight takes them back to the day they first met in the theater. In that quiet moment, Amada reveals that Alicia is his mother, but she left him when he was young, leaving him with the feeling that he was unwanted. Mikono comforts him, insisting that it isn't true, and when Amada asks if she'll watch the film with him, she agrees. Overwhelmed, he begins to float without realizing Zestica is watching, and her jealousy grows worse. Jin repairs Yuno's teddy and apologizes to her, so she forgives him instantly, explaining that everyone has secrets, and she's not the kind of person to force someone to reveal theirs. She even introduces her teddy, and the two promise to meet again that night for the screening. Later, Jin notices that his device is missing, and he has no idea that Mikage is behind it. That night, Yuno stumbles across the device by accident, and when she touches it, she overhears Izzumo's message for Jin, which is to abduct her to their planet. Shocked, she hides the device when Jin appears, pretending she knows nothing. Moments later, the festival begins, and the crowd gathers to watch the movie. But before they can lock lips, Kagora appears, and everyone panics. Fear sends Amada tumbling onto a tree branch, while Jin urges Yuno to come with him as the invasion begins. Kagora roams through the base, searching for Mikono, sniffing every girl nearby to see if she is the one he seeks, but none of them are. Meanwhile, Yuno informs Jin that she has his device and reveals that she has heard the message meant for him. She shows him the device, and he grabs it just as an explosion erupts beside them, causing Yuno to pass out from fear. Authorities rush to evacuate students to prevent casualties, but 20 students are still missing. Mikono, Amada, and Zestica reach the hangar, ready to launch with their vectors. They merge into an Aquaria and pursue Kagora, who spots them and smiles, clearly pleased as he has been searching for Mikono. The trio is surprised when he addresses Mikono as Sylphie and quickly realizes that he's now overpowered. Meanwhile, Jin brings Yuno to the hangar. She wakes to see him preparing one of the vectors and tries to convince him to join them against Kagora, but he refuses, saying he has his own mission. As he activates the vector, the operation room receives an alert that one of the reserved vectors has been deployed, revealing Jin as the traitor. Kane is furious because he was right all along and rushes to stop Jin. Meanwhile, the battle outside intensifies as Amada's side notices that Kagora is being recharged through the interdimensional gate thanks to Mikage. Mikono's team then realizes that cutting off the gate is the only way to stop Kagora's energy supply. Suddenly, Mikage appears in the operations room, and both Zen and Donar recognize him immediately. Elsewhere, Yuno pleads with Jin not to betray their trust, but he remains focused on his mission, powering up the vector and preparing to leave. Mikage attacks the operations room, so Donar tries to protect Sumi but passes out, leaving Sumi, Kriya, and Zen to face Mikage. Zen and Mikage converse as if they have a history, while Yuno cries out to Jin to reconsider, reminding him their friends need his help. Kagora defeats Amada's team, but when he takes Mikono, Amada flies off with her. Pissed, Kagora shoots him down and intends to unalive him since he has no scent unlike other humans. In the operations room, Mikage confronts Zen, demanding the location of the solar wings, but Donar regains consciousness and fires at Mikage, so he blocks and retreats for the moment. Outside, Kagora prepares to eliminate Amada, but Andy intervenes, trapping Kagora in one of his holes, allowing Amada and Mikono to reunite with Andy and Mix. Kagora bursts out angrily, but the arrival of other vectors forces the director to order a merge. To everyone's surprise, Jin returns and merges with the team, preparing to face Kagora in battle. However, Mikage attacks Jin to punish him for his betrayal, but Jin emerges unharmed and requests that the pilots merge with him, giving them 2 Aquarius to face Kagora. They knock him into a rock, but when he counters with immense power, the team recalls that closing the dimensional gate is their only solution. Jin coordinates with the others to create a massive wave that destroys it, so when Kagora charges again, Jin protects his friends while Kane delivers the final blow. Jin, however, collapses thanks to Mikage, and he dies at the spot. After the battle ends, word gets out that Jin didn't survive his injuries. Alongside him, several others were lost, and the Academy holds a somber funeral procession. The dead are laid in the church, surrounded by flowers and grieving students. Before being prepared for the burial, on Altair, Izzumo learns of Jin's death and directs his anger at Mikage, blaming him for the loss. Mikage brushes it off, arguing that his actions were necessary to save their dying world, since Altair cannot continue without women. Izzumo reluctantly accepts his reasoning, though he still begs Jin's forgiveness, even if he knows that forgiveness will never come. Back on Earth, grief hits hard as Yuno isolates herself in her room, unwilling to face anyone after losing Jin. Mikono grows worried, though the others decide to let her grieve in silence. It isn't until Zen approaches Mikono and warns that Yuno could destroy herself if she keeps shutting everyone out that Mikono decides to intervene. Bringing food to her room, she tries to comfort Yuno, who blames herself for not leaving with Jin, convinced that he might still be alive if she had followed him. Gently, Mikono convinces her to step outside, reminding her that paying respects to Jin is the least she can do for him. Meanwhile, Amada is packing away Jin's belongings when he notices the device and sees Sylphie's image appear. The sight leaves him unsettled as he wonders if his mother is somewhere on Altair, but he keeps the thought to himself as preparations continue for the burial. The students board a boat bound for the cemetery, but the mood is heady, with many already doubting if they can continue fighting. Some even talk about quitting, and though Mix tries to argue against it, Andy tells her to let them choose for themselves. Once they arrive at the cemetery, Zen Shocking tells Andy to dig multiple graves, not just for the fallen but also for the living students. His demand sparks outrage, especially from Mikono, who accuses him of being insensitive so soon after they've lost their friends. Zen explains that the exercise isn't cruel, but insists that by burying themselves, they must confront death directly and cut away their fear of losing life. Shrade is the first to step into a grave, followed by Yuno, and one by one, the others follow until only Amada and Mikono remain. Mikono refuses to join them, but before she can protest further, Zen uses his speed to grab Amada and throws him into a hole, sealing the ground above him. Flustered, Mikono tries to intervene but realizes her power connects with her buried friends, helping them overcome their fear and awaken a new strength within themselves. Soon, the earth trembles, and Amada and the others break free from the ground, reborn from their graves. As they reunite, Mikono smiles at Amada and wishes him a happy birthday, but their brief joy is cut short when Kagora erupts from one of the graves, revealing that he had been buried alongside them. Zen notices the dangerous intent in Kagora's eyes and quickly gets Kriya out of harm's way, leaving the students behind to face Kagora and test the strength they gained from their revival. Donar orders the girls to retreat since Kagora is after them, but he still draws his sword and rushes in. Kagora meets him with a blast of energy, shattering his sword and throwing him to the ground. Andy immediately joins the fight, creating a pit under Kagora's feet, and Mix seals it. But Kagora bursts out with ease. He grabs Mix, only to throw her aside when he realizes she isn't the one he wants. His eyes remain fixed on Mikono, who herself doesn't understand why he is obsessed with her, and Amada yells for his friends to get her out of there before Kagora closes in. Two students pull Mikono away while Kane charges at Kagora, but he is swatted down just as easily as Donar. Amada throws himself into the fight next, only to be cut through by Kagora's raw power. The beastly warrior transforms and charges after the vehicle carrying Mikono, but Shrade intercepts him with sound waves sharp enough to bind his body. For a moment, Kagora is pinned, yet his will breaks through Shrade's melody, and he continues his pursuit. He soon catches the vehicle, uses his reversal power to force it backward, and smashes it into a tree. In an instant, Mikono is in his grasp, carried away to the top of a tower where he hides her. The search for Mikono begins immediately. Donar, Andy, Yuno, and Mix take to the skies in a helicopter, while the others spread across the ground. At the tower, Mikono wakes to Kagora's looming presence as he shields her from the helicopter light, covering her mouth to keep her silent. He tries to reach Mikage but receives no answer, unaware that Mikage is deliberately ignoring him. Elsewhere, Jessica tells Amada not to worry too much, claiming Kagora would never harm Mikono because she is his destined one. When Amada questions how she knows, she explains the legend of Apollon and Sylphie, two lovers who parted to save the Tree of Leaf but vowed to find each other again. Kagora believes Mikono carries Sylphie's image, which is why he calls her Sylphie and why he chases her so relentlessly. Amada soon reaches the tower, but Kagora intercepts him. Amada tells Jessica to call Kane, then runs to draw Kagora away. Kagora beats him down brutally, slamming him against a wall until he loses consciousness. In the darkness of his mind, Amada faces his own shadow but pushes through it, awakening a new power. He rises, levitating with a glowing shield that blocks Kagora's attacks. Kane appears and fires at Kagora, but the fight slips away from him, and the weapon falls into Amada's hands. Urged to end it, Amada raises the gun, but Mikono arrives just in time, pleading for him not to unalive Kagora. Her voice stops him, and as if answering her, flower petals swirl through the air, carrying Kagora away into the night. After Kagora's escape, Kriya summons Mikono to her office and punishes her by confining her to her dorm. It isn't her official punishment, but she must serve it until Kriya decides her fate. Leaving the office, Mikono runs into Yuno, who assures her that she will always support her no matter the situation. Mikono struggles to understand what has happened, and while she speaks with Yuno, Andy and Amada eavesdrop on them. Later, back in their room, Andy and Amada talk over what they heard. Amada wonders if their destinies were truly bound 12,000 years ago and questions whether he and Mikono are really connected. Andy tells him it's possible, pointing out that he is connected to Mix through holes and maybe Amada must find his own way to reach Mikono. Andy jokes that his connection might be through Shushu, Mikono's pet, and advises Amada to win Shushu's favor. Taking the idea seriously, Amada goes to the store to buy things he thinks Shushu would like. Jessica sees him shopping and feels conflicted about what she told him before, wishing she could take her words back, but Mix tells her it's better not to interfere. Meanwhile, back on Altair, the city known as the Iron Sea begins to falter as its power weakens, worrying Izzumo. He explains that the city was created by his mother, Rizz, and he now feels the pressure to find a solution before it collapses. On Earth, Zen announces a new training exercise. The elements will engage in live combat simulations, battling as though they are in a real war. He sets Kane, Bianca, and a dude named Malloy against Amada, Jessica, and Mikono. Soon, the two Aquarius form on the battlefield, each side merging with their vectors. Zen encourages them to use their full elemental powers, reminding them that in battle, they must treat each other as true enemies. Kane immediately takes the offensive, wanting to see if Amada has the strength to protect his sister. His Aquarius specializes in long-range combat, and with his ability to see 3 seconds into the future, he predicts every move Team Amada makes. His team bombards Amada, Jessica, and Mikono with relentless attacks, leaving them on the defensive with no clear response. Despite the training that boosted everyone's abilities, only Kane's team is making full use of their growth, while Amada struggles to match them. Amada feels the weight of failure, and Jessica senses his doubt. In a moment of desperation, she decides to confess her feelings to him, but when she tries to speak, an explosion drowns out her words. Pressed by urgency, she grabs Amada, looks him in the eye, and loudly declares her love. Her confession shocks everyone, echoing even through the operations room. As her words sink in, something stirs in Amada's Aquaria. The machine responds with newfound power. Evolving into an upgraded Aquaria, it unleashes a devastating Mugen punch that shakes the battlefield and leaves everyone speechless. Zen watches with intensity, calling it the beginning of a forbidden love. The attack conjures visions from 12,000 years ago. Two men clashing in battle, one resembling Zen, the other strangely familiar to Mikono. They also realize that the woman of legend was Sylvia, not Sylphie. The explosion from the punch is so massive it nearly unalives everyone, and when the dust settles, the island is destroyed. Though both Aquarias remain intact, the students are shaken by the forbidden love's power, while Jessica silently accepts that her confession triggered it. Back at the academy, Amada tries talking to Jessica about her confession, but she brushes it off, saying she doesn't want to pressure him. She walks away, and when Amada tries to stop her, Mikono sees them together. Jealous, she runs off, and Shushu jumps on Amada to keep him from following her. Later, Mikono finds Jessica, but Jessica refuses to talk about what happened. Meanwhile, Mix scolds everyone for thinking about romance when battles are still ahead, and Amada ends up being teased about love back in the dorms. Not long after, Zen and Kriya summon the students for an urgent meeting. They announce a top-secret mission, giving no details about where they're going or what they're after. The vectors are already stocked with supplies and programmed to take them to the location. The next day, the group sets off, with only Sumi accompanying them, though even she doesn't know the mission's purpose. Amada suspects it's connected to the mythic Aquaria, while Mikono worries it could be dangerous. Watching from afar, Mikage realizes Zen is making his first move. Their destination turns out to be an isolated island. Once they arrive, Kriya tells them to wait for further orders and reveals swimsuits stored in their vectors. The girls are the first to change, drawing attention, especially Mix, who stands out even in modest clothes, while the boys sit down to fish. The girls play around until Mix accidentally hits Andy with a banana. She takes him inside the ship to treat his injury, but when he tries to confess his feelings, he fumbles his words, saying he wants to feel her plots.
Yes!
Mix clearly misunderstands what he meant, so she gets angry and storms out. Elsewhere, Jessica isolates herself, only for Mikono to find her, and the two sit together. Meanwhile, Andy sulks inside the ship, wishing he could bury himself, and unknowingly begins digging a massive hole with his power. Outside, the weather suddenly shifts as a dimensional gate opens, releasing an abductor. Amada, Kane, and Malloy merge in Aquaria to fight while Mix and the others take shelter in Andy's hole. Andy keeps digging until he accidentally breaks into a hidden cave containing a mysterious object. Suddenly, he and everyone in the hole are ejected, and they find themselves inside the vector, able to join the battle. With the temperature dropping rapidly, the full group pilots Aquaria together. They channel their combined power and unleash a devastating Mugen punch, destroying the abductor in one blow. Back on Altair, Mikage senses that some of the pieces he seeks are hidden on the island, though the solar wing itself remains unfound. When the team returns to the academy, Jessica surprises everyone with a new, modest outfit that hides her stomach. She later approaches Mikono and admits she doesn't mind if her love for Amada remains one-sided. Even if he doesn't return her feelings, She isn't ready to stop loving him. Kriya learns that Zen has left the academy, leaving behind a note explaining that he is searching for the mythic Aquaria. She wonders if he found some clue before deciding to leave. Meanwhile, Andy remains deeply depressed over his conflict with Mix and spends his time digging holes around the academy. His friends unaware of what is troubling him, though Mix knows and feels guilty for not speaking up. Later, Jessica receives an invitation from a boy asking her out on a date. She considers it a way to distract herself from Amada's rejection and clear her mind. In the yard, Mikono receives a letter from her father just as Amada comes running toward her. She quickly hides the letter, but soon realizes there is no need to keep anything from him. She tells Amada that it is from her father, but admits she has not read it yet. Mikono explains that she was never close to her father because she lacks elemental powers, and that he has always been closer to Kane, making it surprising that she received a letter from him. Amada shares that he knows little of his own father, but has memories of his mother. That night, Mikono reads the letter and then takes it to her brother, apologizing for opening it, but not revealing that she has read the contents. She learns that their father sent the letter to Kane to ask whether Mikono is a burden at the academy and is prepared to take her away if Kane sees her as one. As Mikono is processing this, Mix finds her and confesses that she is the reason for Andy's depression, revealing the events of their trip and admitting her guilt for speaking carelessly about others' feelings. The two conclude that only men truly understand themselves. Meanwhile, Sumi sees Zestica exiting a vector machine after training, leaving her surprised, and Zestica goes to the bathroom to sit in the tub and contemplate her decisions. On Altair, production and resources have dropped dangerously low, forcing Izzumo to consider cutting trips to Earth to sustain basic needs. He realizes the planet is in desperate times, and with Kagora still missing, he suspects Mikage is orchestrating the chaos without concern for the planet. Determined to take matters into his own hands, Izzumo decides to go to Earth to acquire a gifted woman himself and orders his royal armor, the Afurignes, to be prepared. Before leaving, he visits Alicia's pod, hoping to find her son while on Earth. Back on Earth, Kane calls Mikono to let her know he is aware she read the letter and assures her she is not a burden. He praises Amada for helping her grow and looks forward to telling their father. Moments later, Izzumo arrives on Earth with 3 other abductors, and Neo Diva immediately notices the majestic, bold appearance of his armor. Andy is unable to operate in his depressed state and is automatically out of commission, while the rest of the elements stand ready to engage Izzumo and his men. Donor dispatches Amada, Jessica, Nyx, Kane, and Malloy to confront the enemy. As Jessica, Amada, and Malloy merge into the Aquaria, Amada senses Jessica's emotions, noticing her recklessness as she attacks Izzumo without a plan. Izzumo easily counters, knocking out Malloy in the process, and Kane takes his place. Amada continues to fight, but Izzumo dodges her attacks and hacks into Neo Diva's communications, declaring himself Altair's supreme leader and explaining that they need women to sustain life on Altair. Jessica rushes toward the gate to offer herself, sparking another battle with her friends trying to stop her. During the fight, Amada transforms his vector, revealing to Izzumo that he is Alicia's son, while an image of his mother appears above him. Izzumo deduces that Mikage is behind the interference. As Mix tries to intervene, an abductor strikes her and she passes out, allowing Izzumo and his team to abduct Mix instead of Jessica. Andy screams in pain as he watches the scene unfold. At the headquarters, Andy punches Amada because he didn't save Mix. Jessica, who knows why Amada is incapable, runs off, blaming herself. Meanwhile, Kriya and the head staff frantically scan for dimensional gates but can't find any. Donor gets worried as Zen is nowhere to be found in such a dire situation, but Kriya calms him down, assuring him that Zen is definitely working on a way to help them. After the brash exchange with Amada, Andy sulks inside a hole he dug and complains about how he never got to bury his face in Mix's milkers, concerned. Mikono and Yuno offer him rice balls, hoping he'll stop moping around, but he returns the ones from the previous night to them. Jessica misses school for a whole week and curls herself into a ball, wondering why Amada saved her if he wasn't going to pick her as his girl. Suddenly, a hue covers her mirror, and it shatters into pieces. Then Mikage reveals himself like an angel, telling her not to be afraid. He calls their situation similar, saying they have been rejected, and then offers to grant her wish, which is to open the dimensional gate. He kisses her on the forehead as he tells her to promise him something in return. Immediately, he leaves, and a symbol glows on Jessica's head. Later that evening, Mikono bids Amada farewell to look for Zen, but before leaving, she promises to tell him what's on her mind once she comes back. On her way, the dimension gate opens, and as Neo Diva prepares to launch a defense strike, they realize that there are no abductors. Quickly, Andy rushes to Kriya and tries to convince her to let them head to Altair through the portal. At first, she disagrees, But after decoding a message from Zen, she orders them to pilot their Aquaria. Shrade knocks Kane unconscious and takes his position in the Aquaria. As they enter Altair, they escape being spotted thanks to Yuno's camouflage ability. In Altair, they disguise themselves as residents, and as they look for Mix, they notice the toxic air and realize that there are no women in Altair. As they approach the headquarters, the soldiers spot them, so Andy abducts one of them in search of Mix, while Shrade and Jessica take down a lot of their foes. Due to being injured in the crossfire, Andy cares for the injured hostage, and the hostage takes them to the elevator. He coerces the hostage to open the elevator door, but to his surprise, the hostage smashes the security lock, causing the alarms to be triggered. Immediately, soldiers pour in, so Andy makes an escape route for Amada for him to find Mix while he handles the soldiers. Amada escapes through the vents and eventually arrives in a room where Alicia's body is in a cocoon. Meanwhile, Andy gets captured, and as he's taken away, the treated hostage removes his helmet, revealing he is Mix. Izzumo walks into the room, orders his men to stand down, and then asks Amada if he knows the Curse of Eve. Meanwhile, on the outside, Yuno hides their Aquaria with her ability. The toxic air affects not only her, but also Jessica as they wait for Shrade's return. Shrade, on the other hand, after handling the soldiers, relates to Altair, calling it an existence that is awaiting its impending death. As for Mikono, she goes to a nearby town looking for Zen, and after several attempts, she sees him standing by the shore. Surprised, she goes to him and learns that he's been alive for thousands of years, but then assures him that she's ready to play her part. Back on Altair, Izzumo revealed that the dimension is cursed, and Jin was the last child born of their world, and that's why they've been abducting women. Annoyed, Amada leaps at Izzumo, but he easily evades him like some baby mama's responsibility. Meanwhile, Andy makes a getaway in his cell and runs into trouble on his way out, but he blasts his way through, determined to find Mix. He runs into some soldiers, and through their comms, he learns of Amada's location. Amada, on the other hand, is briefed on the Curse of Eve, and he learns that his mother, Alicia, is special enough to resist the Curse of Altair, but not enough to eradicate it for everyone. Annoyed, Amada asks Izzumo what happened to the women they had captured. Suddenly, the sensors in the tower go off, but they do not detect the mighty bonk coming their way. Shrade demolishes the report tower and rescues Andy. He pilots the Aquaria to the tower room and opens up a space for Amada to pass through. On hearing the floating boy's name, Izzumo hears Shrade call out Amada's name, so he tries to tell him who his father is. Unfortunately, the soldiers shoot at Amada, so Amada escapes. Amada escapes into the Aquaria, and as they try to get away, Mix shows up, messing with the thruster nozzle and blocking all their paths. Andy sees who Amada refers to as Mix and finds it hard to believe. But after Amada informs him that Eve's curse is so strong that it gender bends waifus, Andy loses it after realizing he has lost his one-way ticket to losing his V-card. He loses control, creating a mini black hole in the process. Although dangerous, Shrade fires the black hole straight into the dimension gate, carving a path home for the humans. Amada immediately takes charge and escapes the dimension, leaving Mix behind. Meanwhile, Kagora finds his way back to Earth amidst the turmoil. After returning to Neo Diva, the team informs the other students about the Curse of Eve and how they met Mix, who is now a ladyboy. With Shrade out of commission and Zen not available, they wonder if it's the end for them, but Andy refuses to give up. He tries to encourage them, but his powers go out of control. Later that night, Mikage appears in Jessica's mirror and reminds her of her end of the deal for helping them open the dimensional gate. Shocked, she cannot recall making any promise with him, but still, he assures her that she'll fulfill it when the time comes. At that same time, Andy sits outside, dejected that he may never get to stare at Mix's glorious milkers again. He sees Amada nearby and opens up to him that he may never be able to love Mix properly as a man if they manage to get her back. That night, Amada has a nightmare where he merges with Kagora and is referred to as Apollonius. To make things worse, Kagora overpowers his will and drags Mikono away in tears. Somewhere else, Zen tells Mikono the story of the beginning of creation, where the angels waged war against the humans. Amongst them was Apollonius, who fell in love with a human Celian and betrayed his people to side with her. He abandoned his wings and operated the mechanical angel to wage war against his kind. Zen ends the story and informs Mikono that history is going to repeat itself. Due to the nightmare, Amada flies on one of the Aquarias, going against Kriya's orders in search of Mikono. Mikage, on the other hand, watches as his plan comes to fruition, noting that it's about time the second half of Apollonius wakes up. The next morning, Kane and Jessica are deployed to look for Amada. The aforementioned wanders around the town, where he first met Mikono, and he's surprised to see the place has become a wasteland. Meanwhile, Zen takes Mikono into a cave, informing her that it's a place where darkness and light meet. As Amada searches around the town, he goes to his old room and is surprised to see multiple posters of Alicia. Still, in search of Mikono, he goes to the cinema. Coincidentally, Kagora walks around the town, noting he's been there before, but a very long time ago. While trying to find the meaning of his existence, he steps on a frame and sees an image of Alicia with baby Amada. Immediately, memories of Alicia calling him Amada flood his memories. Meanwhile, successfully traces Amada to the town, and as he searches for him, Jessica feels hurt that Amada could go that far for Mikono. She locates the cinema and Amada spots her there, mistaking her for Mikono. As she grasps for straws, wishing he'll give her attention, a dimensional creature shows up. It chases after them, and in the process, Jessica gets trapped. Amada desperately tries to get her out, but she accepts her fate and kisses him. He flies into the air, and Kane finally locates him. To Kane's surprise, Shrade and Sazanka show up, and together they fuse into an Aquaria and battle the abductor. Amada, on the other hand, runs into Kagora, and they confirm they are each other's half. As Shrade fends off Mikage's puppet machine, he faces the damage in real time due to not putting on armor, but as a result, he's able to sync with the Amada better than before. Meanwhile, Kagora calls Amada a wimp, reminding him that they were once one before Alicia got raptured. Kagora then explains how Mikage took him in when he got to Altair, and the only thing he currently cares about is Mikono. Annoyed, Amada tries to fight Kagora, but he gets smacked and mollyhopped like a ragdoll. The girl they're fighting for powerlessly watches them, hoping they'll stop, and to her surprise, Solar Wing awakens. The mechanical Angel carries her out of the cave and into the open. Upon spotting Mikono, the boys intensify their fight, and the mythical Aquarian releases global pulses. Zen arrives at Neo-Diva headquarters and warns the staff not to interfere in a lover's quarrel. Meanwhile, Kagora continues his one-sided beatdown, and watching Mikono beg him to stop only increases his urge to take her down. Jessica wakes up in the afterlife, but Mikage sends her back to Earth, reminding her she hasn't fulfilled her promise. She returns to consciousness just in time to see Kagora pushing Amada into a wall. Thankfully, Amada's Angel wings sprout, and he uses them to attack Kagora. However, Mikono gets knocked away by Aquarian's impact. Amada quickly saves her, and at the same time, Shrade is substituted due to his failing health. As Amada tries to flee, Kagora stops him, and in the process, the mythical Aquarian awakens. Mikage's machine puppet kicks Neo-Diva's Aquarian off and clings to the mythical Aquarian. Kagora seizes the distraction to kick Amada away and escape with Mikono through the dimensional gate. Back at headquarters, Shrade pleads with Kriya to let him fight, even if it costs his life. Seeing his determination, she agrees. Amada and Jessica join him in pursuing Mikage and Kagora. In the dimensional gate, they fuse into Aquarian and fight Mikage's puppet machine. Shrade slices it in two, but it detaches and explodes on the Aquarian, forcefully pushing them back. On Earth, multiple natural disasters occur after the mythical Aquarian reaches Altair, but Zen reassures his crew not to give up hope, reminding them that only the Chosen One can awaken the mythical Aquarian. Back on Altair, Izzumo eagerly waits for Mikono's arrival, believing she's the true Eve who will save their dimension, as the Aquarian struggles in the dimensional gate. Mikage's words echo in Jessica's ears, telling her that it's time to fulfill her promise. Stuck in the dimensional rift, the trio struggles to fly through the distortion, but Shrade tells them they'll need to merge. Despite his bloodied state, he says he can read the musical scale of the dimensional flow to guide them out. With that, they merge, and Shrade declares it his final merge. Back at headquarters, Zen assembles the staff and students and reveals the myth of the world from thousands of years ago. Instantly, they are transported to a plane and stand on the Book of the Twin Stars. Zen opens it, and they learn the true history. Apollonius, the enemy of mankind, fell in love with Celianne, a human, and fought the angels to the end. Toma, Apollonius's fiancée, and Pollen, his dog, had major issues with his choice. Pollen had fallen in love with Celianne and wished to be reborn to be with her. Thousands of years later, Pollen reincarnates as the human Apollo, who operates the mythical Aquarian. Celianne reincarnates as Sylvia, and as they grow close, Toma also reincarnates and destroys the world tree meant to revive the angels. Meanwhile, Kagora shocks Izzumo by refusing to give up Mikono and even fighting Altair's forces. Back in the dimensional rift, as Shrade tries to tune their way out, the trio witnesses the world's history and learns that Mikage is Toma's current reincarnation. He split Apollo's soul into two as revenge for being tricked into thinking Apollo was Apollonius. Learning that Mikono is Celianne's reincarnation, Jessica gives up hope of being with Amada. On Altair, Mikono wakes and apologizes to Kagora for not noticing his feelings across time. After the grueling experience of piloting Aquarian, Shrade uses his blood to produce a staff notation. He manifests a piano and plays the rhythm of his life, noting that it's the first time he's played for someone else. As he loses blood, the portal opens and he flashes back to his past as he plays his requiem and fires Amada and Zestica out of the portal. His final wish is for his song to reach his friends. Back at headquarters, Kane finds himself crying and Kriya relates to this sadness. Suddenly, piano notes appear in blood in the Book of the Twin Stars, signaling that Shrade is no more. Elsewhere, Zestica crashes into Altair. Frantically searching for Amada, the seal on her forehead lights up and Mikage appears, kissing her and transferring his consciousness into her, taking full control of her body. During this time, Kagora tries to protect Mikono from Altair's forces, refusing to release her to Izzumo. To his surprise, Zestica appears and urges him to call for the mythical Aquarian. At her shout, Solar Aquarian manifests, and the trio begins piloting it. At headquarters, the staff worry about how to reach Altair and retrieve Aquarian. Andy offers to open a dimension using his black hole powers, and Kriya permits him. On Altair, Izzumo orders his soldiers to take down Kagora, but Kagora uses the Solar Aquarian to eliminate all the pawns. Determined, Izzumo fights him, demanding to know why Kagora is so obsessed with Mikono that he's willing to go against Altair. Mix joins the fight, siding with Izzumo to protect their planet. Back at Neo Diva, Andy leads the pilots and channels his feelings for Mix to create a black hole, opening a passage into Altair's dimension for them to jump through. On Altair, Kagora overpowers Mix, but Mikono intervenes. In the process, Izzumo attacks Kagora, who counters while Mix acts as a shield for him. As Kagora goes for a finishing blow, Andy and Kane arrive in an Aquarian. Interrupting the Solar Wings attack, Amada's team informs Kane of Shrade's death, but without time to mourn, Nyx attacks them. Andy tries to reason with her, but the femboy retaliates. Nearby, Amada wakes at the sound of his name and quickly heads toward the source. Using fast travel, he reaches the facilities and spots his mother, regaining consciousness. He lashes out at her for abandoning him, but she explains why she had to leave. Alicia drops a bombshell, revealing that Izzumo is his father, and narrates why she left him on Earth while going to Altair. Meanwhile, Izzumo recalls his own near rebellion against the Empire for Alicia's sake. Attempting to stop Kagora, he amps up his mecha using the Iron Sea and fires a warning shot, ordering Kagora to release Mikono. In retaliation, Zestica grabs the controls and fires at the facility where Alicia is, causing a massive chunk of debris to strike her and send her to the afterlife. Distracted, Izzumo flies to his family, but Kagora's Mugen punch gravely injures him. In retaliation, Izzumo fires his beam cannon at them. Moments later, Amada reaches Izzumo and tells him he has spoken with Alicia. Izzumo asks to be taken to her. As Amada helps him up, Izzumo notices plants blooming and female butterflies breeding. He realizes the Iron Sea he used to power Altair is the source of their curse. Shocked, he falls to the ground, questioning if his life has been meaningless. Suddenly, Alicia's soul appears, reassuring Izzumo that his life isn't meaningless. She pulls out his soul and reminds him that he brought Amada into the world, who will connect the two worlds. Alicia hugs Amada, calling him the proof of their love, and advises him to cherish the person he treasures most. With that, she departs with Izzumo. Dejected, Amada gets into his Aquaria as he blames Kagora for taking away his parents. Meanwhile, Kagora looks around for Mikono after being knocked out by Izzumo's beam. Suddenly, he sees the Grim Reaper right behind him, and is shocked to see his wimpy half blaming him for Izzumo's death. Amada then tells him that Izzumo is their dad. He chases after Kagora and makes an incomplete mechanical angel with his aircraft before using it to smack Kagora away. Having witnessed the transformation, Kagora also transforms his Aquaria into an incomplete Aquarian and fights back. In the process, they open a wormhole which pulls Altair, sending it towards Earth. Meanwhile, Andy continues his fight with Mix, and after several attempts to open up a hole in Mix's Aquaria, he pins the mecha down and gets into the cockpit. He then tells Mix to follow him, and Mix wonders why Andy is obsessed with him. Suddenly, annoying memories flash into his mind, so he tries to get rid of Andy. Out of desperation, Andy creates a mini black hole to draw Mix out of the Aquaria. Once outside, Mix memories before becoming a Miguel pour in, and he finally remembers Andy. Ashamed, he pushes Andy away, telling him not to look since he's no longer a girl. But Andy surprises him by saying a hole is a goal, whether it's Eve or Steve. The couple acts all lovey-dovey, and as they prepare to merge, they get swapped out for Yuno. As for the halflings, they clash with their ideals, and the earthlings on Earth worry about the incoming planet heading their way. Zin, on the other hand, idly waits, wondering if the destruction of the two worlds will be what will appear in the Book of the Twin Stars. stars. Out of concern, Kriya shows up, challenging him on the choice he's made and if he plans to follow the book to the ladder, but he vanishes. In Altair's heir, Amada lists 100 reasons why he's in love with Mikono, and the two quarrel like cats and dogs. Mikono wakes up shortly and flies to stop them, but Zessica stops her. There she learns Mikage possessed Zessica. Mikage then explains how she got tricked, and her current plan is to have the two worlds become one, then rule them as a god. Mikage then forcefully merges with Mikon, and absorbs the planet's iron sea. Amada then charges at it, and his comrades merge with him to form an Aquarian. Unfortunately, Mikage easily stops them. He then hums a song that causes Kagora to pass out. Concerned, Amada rushes to check on him, but when he sees Mikage merging some more, he charges at him, only to discover that Mikage has formed the first of a kind Dark Aquarian. Amada tries to knock Mikage out with a Mugen punch, but the laws of physics break down as his fist nears the Dark Aquarian. Mikage responds by showing Amada the power of a god, using multiple hands to grab Amada's Aquarian before electrocuting it. Meanwhile, Kagora wakes up on a staircase and tries desperately to reach Mikono, who is tied up. But no matter how hard he runs, he cannot reach her. Eventually, he collapses and sees a powerless Zessica begging him to end her life. Reluctantly, he chokes her, which for a brief moment allows Amada's Aquarian to escape Mikage's wrath. At the last moment, Kagora changes his mind, unwilling to sacrifice her life for Mikage. Mikage responds by removing form from his appearance, causing both Kagora and Zessica to lose their footing. He then activates the solar wings, declaring that only he and Mikono are necessary. With a single attack, he knocks out the Aquarian pilots, sending them back to the headquarters. As the planets draw closer, Mikage uses an equation to summon the sun over Earth, drying up the seas. The Neo-Neve organization scrambles and decides to use all three Aquarians together. To their surprise, Shrade's music echoes around them, guiding and empowering them for their toughest mission yet. Charging toward Mikage, the team faces a barrage of attacks. Mikage tries to crush them like ants, but Shrade's spirit helps them persist. Amada takes attacks head-on but keeps returning to fight. Intrigued by his sheer will, Mikage begins to drain Earth's life force. During this, Mikono sees the frozen bodies of past reincarnations and apologizes, but they tell her not to. Frightened by Toma's reincarnation, she is reassured by Zen, who tells her not to look away. Outside, Mikage demonstrates his strength by smashing the Aquarians to Earth. Just as Amada is about to be overwhelmed, Zessica and Kagora join him, breaking through Mikage's defenses. Mikono finally reaches Mikage's heart, witnessing the depth of his love for Apollonius. She resolves to stop him, willing to bear the punishment herself if it means saving the world. Unfortunately, Mikage proves he's worth more than a generic villain and whacks Amada and friends down to Earth again. Seeming like all hope is lost, Yuno struggles to reach for the controls, but to her shock, Jin's soul takes over, and with the power of his pull and friendship, Amada gets the boost strong enough to evade and preach his love to Mikono. He sends an attack that strikes Mikage, and then his true form flies and embraces Mikono. They kiss, and her tears restore the water levels on Earth and stop the planets from colliding. Trapped, Mikage floats in space, and he eventually runs into Zen, only to find out that he was Apollonius all along, this time for good. Zen absorbs him to prevent any future disasters, but the Rainbow Boy realizes that he's still in love with Zen. Life nearly returns to normal, except Amada and Mikono aren't in Neo Diva. But on one sunset, Amada shows up in his angel wings, carrying Mikono, and everybody happily reunites with them. That brings us to the end of today's video. If you've watched up to this point, let's confuse the fake anime watchers by commenting on who is the hottest guy in the anime. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel, and give me 10 likes so I'll post unplotted. Also, if you're into anime recaps like this, check out the next video with lots of baby oil. Peace.